What is going on, everybody? I am the FD Guru, bringing to you guys an NFL Week 14 video, talking about the main slate as I do every week, doing a pretty big Guru credit code for all you guys, as I've done every week. I'll give that to you after the first couple of my plays. Just give this video a like and subscribe. We have 11 games on the main slate for Week 14, 7 in the early window at 1 o'clock Eastern, 3 in the afternoon window, and then as FanDuel is done, the Sunday Night Football game on the main slate between the Chargers and the Chiefs. The DraftKings main slate does not include the Sunday Night Football game, so it's a 10-game main slate over on DK. We have a pretty good-looking slate. I was looking through this earlier today to pick out my value plays, and I was not really getting the 5 value plays as easy as most weeks, and that's a good thing, because by that I mean I was debating 2 or 3 different value plays at each position. I was, it was hard to land on one, so looking like a good value slate can get a little bit different throughout my lineups, and that's always a good thing. We do have some questionable guys, but we always get more news Sunday morning, and they're pretty good about that. I think the biggest questionable guy is George Pickens on the Steelers. I don't know if they've, made his injury report any more detailed. But he looks like he's truly questionable. And then a guy like Keon Coleman, who's been out for the Bills, is questionable. But there's not a ton of stuff. We do have injuries to take advantage of, but we'll get into that as I talk about these value plays. Most of these games range from a 40 to a 45 over-under. We do have basically a 50 over-under in the Bills and Rams game. That looks like the highest projected scoring game this week. And then no spreads more than 6.5 points except for the Eagles at home against the Panthers, which should be a blowout, 13.5 point favorites. So all in all, looks like a pretty decent looking slate. We'll get right into things at quarterback, and I think it's a spot we want to spend up this week. There is some value at the quarterback position. I am going to pick Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. I think his ceiling is pretty limited with the blowout risk against the Panthers. He might not really be needed in the second half. I love Josh Allen at sub 9K this week. 8,900 on the road against the Rams. The Bills are 3.5 point favorites, so they're going to need him to play his best game to get this win on the road. And the Rams defense just got absolutely torched by the Eagles last week. I think the Bills offense is just as good as the Eagles offense. Allen's coming off of 2 awesome games last week. He had that receiving touchdown, which was insane. So 4 total touchdowns for Allen, 28.5 fantasy points. He's gotten over 20 fantasy points in 7 straight games. This guy is an absolute stud. Really like this price at 8,900. In my opinion, he should be priced at like 9,500 this week, up towards like a Lamar Jackson price. I think it's a little too cheap. Other guys you could look at if you wanted to get cheaper, there's, I think, a decent handful of them. Sam Darnold against the Falcons looks pretty good at only 7,600 if you were, trying to spend up on Justin Jefferson. I did that last week. Pairing those 2 guys, never a bad idea. Caleb Williams in San Fran, they're going to need him to throw the ball. He's been looking good as of late too. 30 and 26 fantasy points over the last 2 games. Good game script for him. They're probably going to need him to pass the ball all game. And then Jameis Winston. Why not? I know it's the Steelers. They're in Pittsburgh. It's a tough matchup, but why not in a GPP look at Jameis Winston? This guy has had a higher ceiling than most quarterbacks this year, and he's just an absolute. He's cinema. I mean, it's tough to take your eyes off this guy. This guy's awesome. I don't know how you would not be a fan of Jameis Winston. This guy throws the ball all game long. He takes risks, which is good for DFS, because if he throws a pick, so be it. You get -1 on FanDuel and DraftKings. Not as bad as fumbling it. 497 passing yards. He's turned Jerry Jeudy's career around after it looked like he was going to have a career decline year with the Browns with Deshaun Watson at the helm. Winston's looked awesome. I know they just played the Steelers 2 weeks ago and he didn't do too well. But I'm pretty sure that was like the weird snow game on Monday or Thursday Night Football. I know it was a primetime game. Tough to really take that as a sample size when the weather was so poor. Yes, the Steelers' defense is pretty good. They are 20th against the pass. Browns are 6.5-point dogs, so they're probably going to need to throw the ball in this game. 43.5 over under, pretty decent. I don't mind Winston at 6,900. You could look at Will Levis at 6,600. He's had a couple of good games, really 4 good games over the last 4 weeks, 16 or more fantasy points at $6,600. If he's going to get 16 fantasy points, you're going to feel pretty damn good about that value. At home against the Jaguars. Let's see what we have for a spread in that game. We have the Titans at -3, a 40 over-under. You have Trevor Lawrence obviously on the IR from that dirty hit, so Mac Jones on the other end of things. I definitely like the Titans in this game. Levis, not a bad value play either at 6,600. And then even Kirk Cousins has a decent upside at only 7K. There's definitely some cheaper quarterbacks. If you're going to spend up, I don't love Tua against the Jets at 8,300. Like I said with Hurts, not a good game script for him if they're going to be up by 2 scores early in the game. Baker Mayfield, he's had a great year, tons of passing touchdowns. Does have Mike Evans back. I still think the price is a little too much. I would much rather spend 800 more bucks on Josh Allen. And I think we have some value this week, so we shouldn't have a problem spending up at quarterback, and that's going to be a segue right into running back. Going to be most likely in all of my lineups. It's going to be tough not to play him with Christian McCaffrey going down with that non-contact injury. That's always so tough to see. He was absolutely cooking in that first quarter against the Bills. Football is just not the same without CMC out there, so you hate to see that. And then crazy enough, Jordan Mason also goes down in that game with an ankle, so he's out. With Brennan Ayuk being done, they've had George Kittle miss a few games. The 49ers just can't get away from injuries. Even Brock Purdy missed a game 2 weeks ago. But for DFS, we got to look at Isaac Guerendo, 5,200. Obviously the wrong price here. He's going to be the number 1 back. He stepped in after Jordan Mason got hurt against the Bills last week. 4 rushes, 19 yards, got a touchdown. He's projected for like 90 rushing and receiving yards. At 5,200, he should be in every lineup. Probably going to get you double-digit fantasy points with a decent 20-point upside. Just an automatic first guy in all lineups this week. Play him against the Bears. It's even a good game script. The Bears defense has not been good overall this year. And we see the 49ers as -3.5-point favorites at home. 44.5 over-under. What a great spot for Guerendo. Obviously the wrong price. He should be at least 6,200, if not a little bit more this week. So just play him and move on and figure out the rest of your lineup. But a guy like him is going to make it a lot easier to spend up at quarterback. Now, there's other good-looking running backs. Obviously, Alvin Kamara. Taysom Hill is out. He hurt his knee last game, so the vulturing of touchdowns in the red zone certainly plummets for Kamara with Taysom Hill out, so that makes him look good at 9,200. These top 2 guys, pick your poison. I do like Kamara a little bit more because he's a whole $800 cheaper, and I think he has a similar ceiling against the Giants with no Taysom Hill. But Barkley against the Panthers, after what he's done the past few games, really all year long, this guy could score. I mean, we've seen him score 36 and 47 in 2 out of the last 3 games. A matchup against the Giants. I mean, Jesus. Good luck to New York. Saquon Barkley is an MVP candidate this year, even at 10K. You could look at him. I would expect him to get towards 25 fantasy points in this game. Love the 2 spend-ups at running back if you wanted to go that route. I'm going to try to get exposure to one or both of them, try to figure it out. But I think receiver, we can go a little bit cheaper this week. Both look fantastic. 10 out of 10 spots for both of these guys. I do not mind the increased salaries on these 2 running backs. For my Guru credit code, go to my website, fd-guru.com. Here is where you'll find NBA main slate, FanDuel, and DraftKings. And then for NFL Sunday, you'll see a whole ton of content. FanDuel and DraftKings. I play the main slate, 1 p.m. only or early only, whatever you want to call it. 4 p.m. only or afternoon only. So 3 full roster slates on Sunday. I play 3 single game slates throughout the week. Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football. Tons of content. Go to the shop page. You'll get 20 free credits. These credits are used on my content, my lineups on my website. You got to make an account, got to be signed in for these credits to go into your balance. Takes a second to just validate an email address. This week's code is week 14 NFL 24 for the year. All capital letters on week and NFL. Week 14 NFL 24, hit apply coupon in that bar there, and you'll see after a few seconds that those 20 credits will go right into your account. Again, just like this video, subscribe, and hop over to my website for NFL Sunday. Hopefully we can have a huge week. I think we're pretty due. Been kind of skidding over the last couple of slates, but this week, like I said, this slate looks really good. Wide receiver, I don't think it's really a week where we spend up unless you wanted to look at Justin Jefferson. Nakua and Kupp are pretty properly priced at 85 and 8,600. One of them could always have a huge game, but compared to spending up at quarterback or running back, I don't think it's really worth it this week. My value play, his price has not gone up enough. I don't care about the matchup. Jerry Jeudy, 6,100. This guy, I have picked him whether it's a single game slate or if he's on the main slate. I have picked him 3 straight weeks, and this guy has been a stud. Absolutely cooked his former team in the Broncos. 9 catches, 235 yards, and a touchdown. Now, we obviously don't expect that to happen again, but it's $6,100. He needs like 11 or 12 fantasy points to pay off that salary. He's projected for 13.5 right now, and he's obviously Jameis Winston's number 1 target. You do have Cedric Tillman out this week, so it's looking like top targets coming from Jerry Jeudy and Elijah Moore, and then even David Njoku looks pretty damn good at 6,200 at tight end. He's probably the number 2 target for Winston behind Jeudy, and then you have Elijah Moore filling out that 3rd spot. But even though it's a tough matchup against the Steelers, Winston is not afraid of anything. He's going to throw it, and he's been looking directly at Jerry Jeudy week in and week out. Double-digit targets in 3 out of the last 4 games. Really like Jeudy at 6,100 for what he's been doing as of late. He should be at least $7,100, even in a tougher matchup against the Steelers. Looks like my favorite value wide receiver this week. For tight end, I mentioned David Njoku, and I never like spending up at tight end, but this week looks like a good week to spend up. The top tight ends have really been performing, and no, I'm not talking about Travis Kelce. I'm talking about Brock Bowers, who is arguably the best tight end in the NFL, right next to Trey McBride, and those are the 2 guys I like this week. Bowers is projected for 80 receiving yards against the Bucs. Good game script, absolutely cooked the Chiefs on Black Friday football last week. We have the Raiders as 6.5-point dogs, so they should be throwing the ball. One of the higher over-unders on the slate, 46.5. Even at 8K, Brock Bowers looks great. George Kittle, don't love it at 7,500. You could look at Travis Kelce. He has a great track record against the Chargers, but my tight end guy this week for $800 cheaper is McBride. Bowers is projected a little bit more than McBride, like a point, maybe a point and a half, but I'd rather have those 800 extra bucks. McBride has had a monster last 2 weeks as Kyler Murray has looked directly at him as a top option, even ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr. Over the last 2 weeks, 27 combined targets with 24 catches. I'm no math wizard, but that's a pretty damn high catch to target ratio. Like 225 receiving yards. I mean, I love McBride here. He's projected for 15 fantasy points. I think he should be closer to 8K like Brock Bowers. He just played the Seahawks 2 weeks ago and had 12 catches on 15 targets for 133 yards. I don't see why he can't do that again this week. I like his ceiling more than every tight end except for Bowers. The Seahawks and Cardinals game is a 44.5 over-under, a tight 2.5-point spread, basically a pick'em. Really like McBride to spend up on. And like I said, if we're going cheaper, 5 to 6K, mid 6Ks at wide receiver this week, we can spend up at quarterback, get a high running back, and get a high tight end because we have that value play with Garendo at that second running back position. So I think it's very possible. And then for defenses, a couple defenses I like, good values here. New Orleans Saints, how can you ever argue a sub $4,500 defense against the Giants offense? Is it Drew Lock or DeVito this week? I don't even know, and I don't even care. Practice Thursday, Dayball announced that Drew Lock would make a second start. Okay, so Drew Lock is starting. Again, I don't really care. The Saints are 5-point favorites here, 41 over-under, low over-under. Like this value played only 4,400. You could also look at the Tennessee Titans. Any defense going up against a Mac Jones is going to look good no matter what. So that's good at 4K there. And then if you wanted to go really cheap and you don't have any Titans exposure, I think the Jaguars defense is a decent value at 3,500 because Will Levis has turned the ball over a lot this year. But I might be picking Levis in like a GPP lineup, so I don't know if I'll be looking that way. But if you were to go, if you're one of those guys who likes to go really low at defense, I would probably pick the Jaguars before anyone else. That'll do it for this video, guys. Thanks for stopping by. Enjoy those credits. We have a $7,000 average player remaining in these picks, so very doable. Feel really good about this slate. Again, thanks for stopping by. Give this video a like, and let's have a huge week 14. Until next time, I am the FD Guru. Peace.